So no matter what side of the political aisle you're on, I think it's pretty clear to say that economic times are tight at best. So if you need to rein in the bourbon budget, here's 5 high-value bottles that won't break the bank. Let's talk about it. So I don't think it's any kind of secret, but I have decently expensive taste in whiskey. I mean, Stag is my honestly favorite bottle that is even relatively findable. But I think, especially right now, people are looking for whiskey that's more inexpensive or at least cheaper. And I think even those who are enthusiasts like myself are looking to kind of rein in that and to really get the most for their money. So that's what this list is supposed to be. This isn't the list of the 10 best cheap bottles, the best whiskey on the shelf. These aren't all shelf bottles. Some of them only come several times a year. But I would say that you can find at least every year each of these bottles. Maybe not here in Pennsylvania, but there are websites, Sealbox, Bourbon Outfitters, Shared Pour, where you can find most, if not all of these things. Sometimes they're at a little bit of a premium. Or if you go out of state, you can find them pretty easily. I am Pennsylvania based. I get it. I know the struggle of living in Pennsylvania and having to find some of these whiskeys, so I get it. What this list is homing in on is whiskey that tastes comparable to much more expensive bottles, and I think gives you more value, gives you a better taste than necessarily the price range regulates. If you clicked on this link because you want to get a list of cheap bottles that I enjoy, I have other lists for that. I will tag one of them here, but I will also give you just the basic gist. I'm going to read off my list here of these are honorable mentions. They're bottles that are cheap that I think are really good and decently inexpensive. So Cooper's Craft 100 is one of them. It's about $35-40 if it is still around. I know I've heard that they're discontinuing it, but I still see it available places. So for that, I think that's a good one. Early Times Bottled and Bond is harder to find now than it was before. Makes sense because they got bought by Sazerac. But at some point here in the near future, they're switching over to Barton Juice. And at that point, I think it will be all but a shelf item. So I'm excited for that. I've heard that they're using the same mash bill. Might be a little bit different in taste. I don't know what yeast they use. I'm excited for it. I like Barton Juice. I like Early Times Bottled and Bond. So if it is anywhere close to a marriage of the two, I'm in. I really like Old Tub, but it is a little divisive. It is Jim Beam and their Funk 211. So it is a little funky. If you like, other Jim Beam offerings, you might like this one. It is a little coppery. It is, in my opinion, a very great whiskey, and it's under $20. As far as under $20, the other one that I would go with is Evan Williams 1782. That one is one that I don't hear a lot of people talk about because most of the time they're talking about Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. I don't like Evan Williams Bottled and Bond as much as other people do. Just get a weird grassy note off of it to me. But the 1782 is 6 to 8 year whiskey, so it doesn't have that note for me that the 4-year minimum of the Evan Williams Bottled and Bond has. So that's why I prefer that one. If you want Evan Williams Bottled and Bond, go for it. Also, the Maker's Mark Cask Strength and the Maker's Mark 46 Cask Strength, I think, are both fantastic bottles. They're both readily available at the 45 for the Cask Strength and 60 for the 46 Cask Strength. And then Redwood Empire's Lost Monarch is about $40. It is a great bottle at that price. There's not going to be a whole lot of proof diversity to what I'm about to give you. There's one bottle that's 106 and the rest of them are like 120 plus. That's my palate. So if you are looking for something a little bit less proof, go to the ones that I just talked about as being cheap bottles. But I think these bottles that I'm about to give you number 5 here. I'm not going to tease you too long. These bottles are bottles that I think give a great taste profile at not a lot of money. So that being said, 5th on my list is 1792 Full Proof. This one is a pick. You can do the regular blended product or the store picks. They should be $45 to $60. I think a lot of them taste above what their costing is. I've had a bunch of picks. I don't know that I've ever had a bad one, honestly. Very good at best. I know when people are talking about Stag, especially, they're generally 1792 Full Proof or Benchmark Full Proof are the ones that they go to first, which makes sense with Benchmark Full Proof. If your palate's more advanced and you're expecting to taste more like Stag, I think 1792 Full Proof is much closer than Benchmark Full Proof. Benchmark Full Proof just tastes like 4-year whiskey because it is. Supposedly the 1792 Full Proof is about usually 6 to 8 years old, and the picks I think are 6 plus. I know we picked one and I'm pretty sure it was 7 years. Check out the whole pick process here. It was a great video. It was a fun time to do, and we actually did it with Master Distiller, which is not the experience that most people get. But yeah, 1792 full proof, I think, drinks well above its $45 for the blended product, $60 for the picks. I really think you can't go wrong unless you super hate high proof whiskey. Which, if that's you, you should stop at the whiskeys that I gave you earlier, because it's not going to get better. Next up on the list is number 4. It is Bardstown Origin Series. Now, I like all of the Origin Series. I want to go preface this with that. They are 40 to I think the rye is 69, 70 bucks, something like that. This one is new as of last year. It is a high wheat version, so I'm pretty sure it is 53% corn, 39% wheat, 8% malted barley, which weirdly enough is not an MGP clone mash bill, which is mostly what Bardstown has been doing to this point, I think, to ease the transition from sourcing some MGP to their own juice, and I'm here for it. I also think that it aids them when they're trying to convert customers who are sourcing over to Bardstown Bourbon Company from MGP, and I think that's done really well for them so far. Companies like James Pepper have already done it, and it is a smooth transition at worst and better at best. The high wheat, I think, is one of my most exciting bottles of last year, especially one that's pretty findable. It's not here in PA, at least not yet, but it's in Maryland, it's in Jersey, it's in New York, and it's pretty findable on the internet to get shipped. But this one is a lot of buttery notes. A lot of people compare it to Weller Antique. I don't think it's there for me. I think the consistency and the taste are very different. And sometimes whiskey doesn't need to be an Weller Antique or a Weller Full Proof, a unicorn killer. Sometimes it can just be good. This is just good. I would not recommend this to somebody who's trying to find a cheap alternative to Weller Antique, but I would recommend this to anybody who's just looking for a quality wheated bourbon. Price is around 50 bucks. I think you can find it probably for cheaper, slightly, or more expensive places. I'm pretty sure I bought this for 50. I think that's roughly where you should pay for it. All right, next up on the list, this is the one that I think it's probably the only one that I have on other lists. I try to avoid having bottles that are on multiple lists. I try to keep it interesting, but this one is a repeat. It is Ben Holiday Rickhouse Proof. This one was from last year. It came in at 120 proof. It is 6-year age stated, which is pretty nice, and about 65 bucks. I think I actually paid less than that. I think I paid 55 for this at Saubles in Maryland. This is available places like Sealbox, probably more expensive because Sealbox generally is. This is a great bottle. The reason it's been on multiple of my lists is because it is great. I like a lot of what they're doing. I think this year, it seems like their age statements are going up. It seems like they pushed a lot of whiskey out to market. What they're doing right now is doing really good whiskey. And I think it really tastes, honestly, above what its age is. It is for 120 proof, it is a very easy sipper. Some would call that smooth, some would call that crushable, but I think smooth and crushable are generally like a lessening of flavor, and that's not what this is. This is a very good, very flavorful whiskey that is worth, I think, well above what they're selling it for. So, that is number 3. Number 2 is Larceny Barrel Proof. Now, this one is a single barrel. I think the single barrels or the batch product are all really good. The easy comparison for me is between this and Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Both of them, I think, are good products. If you like everything that Heaven Hill puts out, I think Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is probably going to be more up your alley if you like just good whiskey. I think the variation in the Larceny Barrel Proofs is not as much. I think there's a level of quality in the Larceny Barrel Proof that does not exist in the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, especially the A batches from the last 2 years have not been very well received, whereas I think the Larceny Barrel Proofs have been. Larceny as a whole has a very good quality standard that Elijah Craig Barrel Proof doesn't. That's just me. I know that there are people out there that love Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, and I get it. To me, this Larceny Barrel Proof is a better product than Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. I said what I said. All right, and number 1, or I think the best whiskey that you can buy with your $65-ish, and that is Green River Full Proof Store Picks. Now, this one is an Alec Bradley, and it came with 3 cigars, and it was $80 from Bourbon Outfitters. So subtract the cost of the cigars, which I would imagine are got to be more than $5 a piece. I would imagine they're more like $7. So that puts this at about a $60 pick. At that price point, It's fantastic. I've gotten other ones for 60-ish. This one's 131 proof. And I have not had a bad Green River product yet. I would say that the standard Green River 90 proofer is my least favorite out of all of them, but it's not bad, especially when you compare it for 30 bucks to bottles like Buffalo Trace. I think it hangs in there with those bottles. This, I think, is as close to a stag killer as you can get. The Green River picks have been some of my favorite pickups of last year, and I'm going to continue to get them when I see them, especially like this. Now, in addition to these, the weeded have been announced. They're doing weeded store picks coming up, or weeded single barrels from their stocks, and I'm excited for those because I like the weeded standard product more than I like the rye standard product. So I'm interested to see how those stack up to these. Very excited to see what this year brings for those. And honestly, I think maybe that could be my new release of the year. It has that potential, just like these have potential to be, I think, much better than what their pricing is. So I would love to hear your comments. Tell me what bottles you think are worth much more than their value. And I swear I will hear Rare Breed in this. I have waited to the end to address this. I know people love Rare Breed. I just don't. Like, I had it blind in a fantasy whiskey draft sample, and I gave it, I believe, a 6. Like, to me, Rare Breed is not that good. It is not that complex. It is a great, easy, inexpensive sipper at 116.8 proof. I will never say Rare Breed is a high-value whiskey because I think it's properly valued. It is just nothing special to me. So if that is your favorite bourbon and you came here to say that, go ahead and say it in the comments because honestly, it gives me engagement. We have some upcoming events. We have tomorrow, actually. So this will be released the 12th. On the 13th, I'm going live with the Bourbon Jerk on his channel. I will hopefully have the link to that in this video. If you want to come, stop by, subscribe to the Bourbon Jerk and talk about, I think we're doing some Squid Games kind of thing. So if you want to see me make a fool of myself, please tune in because I'm sure I will. We're also planning some upcoming live streams, so stay tuned for those. If you want to support the channel, you can join here on YouTube. You can join on Patreon. We have a sticker club and a sample club. You can check out my merch store. The links to all those are in the description. If you like this content, check out our other videos. Please like and comment on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And we hope you'll join us in drinking like a gentleman. And maybe some point I will put this up against that. I try not to do every video about stag, even though I really want to. Not gonna lie.